Welcome to the Dark Academicals, the podcast where we delve into the mythos of dark academia one book at a time. I'm Sophie Waters.
And I'm Sarah Purnell.
To kick off season 2, we're going to be looking at the Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake.
The Alexandrian Society is an exclusive and highly selective order of witches, or Medeans. Every 10 years, 6 highly accomplished individuals are offered a place to prove themselves worthy of the library's extensive knowledge on all things. But there's a catch. 6 may enter, but only 5 may proceed to the next stage. Who stays, and who meets an untimely end, must be decided amongst them. A deeply cerebral exploration of power, knowledge, and the predictable nature of being human.
We're back for season 2, and if you want to know all of the titles that are coming up, please check out the full article that we've published on booksburgersandbackpacks.com, or there's a link in the show notes for you to have a look and get prepared so you can read along with us. But first, it's time for the Atlas 6.
So if this is the first time that you're listening to us, what we do at the Dark Academicals is we explore a title and see if it is a dark academia book, as it is commonly tagged as.
So we've kind of come up with our own parameters of what makes a novel dark academia. And in fact, the first episode of the podcast actually runs through all of these elements that we have decided make up a dark academia title. In our opinion, we go into lots more detail, but we are going to quickly give you a run through of all of the topics that we're going to cover off in this analysis of the book. So first we have a higher education setting, old Gothic architecture, a preoccupation with classical studies, Latin, Greek, literature, philosophy, murder, a dark, moody and or haunting vibe, hero worship of a particular figure or author, old money which will collide with new money or no money, whether as a literary device, and underdeveloped social skills or the protagonist being portrayed as an outsider.
And also, generally all these things are found in The Secret History.
Yes, that is our launch pad. It's the seminal text. It's the book that we compare all dark academia, quotation marks around dark academia, because they're definitely not all dark academia, even if they say that on the cover. And that's what we compare them to. And that's what we're going to be doing with the Atlas 6 today. So first up, a higher education setting.
Well, it definitely has a higher education setting. But I found this, so the society is currently based just outside of London in a kind of nondescript house.
Like a big manor house, isn't it? Like,
yeah. But it's not higher education in the classic sense that, like, because, I mean, we see Libby and Nico graduate from a magical, like, university. That would have been, like, the more logical dark academia setting.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is, it's more like an extended education, like, almost like a magical, the equivalent of, like, a writing retreat. But
yeah, or
also a secret society and...
like a research degree, almost, once you've finished university, yeah.
But the issue that we both found with this setting is that there wasn't really a sense of place there. Yeah. And I think that kind of leans into the old Gothic architecture element of dark academia, because that wasn't really there either, was it? And I think the lack of both of those together didn't anchor the book in a place.
Yeah, I think the descriptions of the actual setting itself were quite scant. So all I ended up seeing in my head was like a vague corridor, a series of kind of underfurnished rooms, sort of a bit musty. They all kind of mill around in about 3 different rooms. But it wasn't enough for my imagination to kind of get a good grip on it.
Like latch onto, yeah. Especially as like the house is supposed to be sentient. And there's no... When place, I think, is done well, it becomes its own character in the book. And there was so much scope for this. There was so much potential and possibility for it to play a bigger part and I think that was missed in this.
Yeah.
Because like you, I can kind of see in my head a vague room, but I can't even really see the library room.
No, and their bedrooms, I just kind of imagine this corridor of 6 rooms, with almost like, because there's nothing to go on, there are just like little cells with a bed in it. But that's all I have. Like I can't. I need something to begin building the details. Yeah.
Weirdly, my brain defaulted to like how I imagine the rooms in Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I don't know why. They just seem to have plucked that from the depths of my brain and used that as a backdrop.
My brain defaulted to kind of the descriptions that were given in A Deadly Education.
Oh, I haven't read that one.
Because there is like a similarity in the situation.
Okay.
And I think my brain just went, that'll do.
Let's plug that in.
Yeah. I found it really interesting as well that the place itself is described as both British and English. I'm not really sure what that means, and I don't know if it's just like a kind of melding of the two terms.
Yeah. But it's also mocked a lot, isn't it? Like the Britishness of it, the Englishness of it. And I think she's trying to make a comment on like imperialism and classism and like the horrific kind of class system in this country. Yeah. And I think that's what she's going for, but she doesn't quite nail it. Like, I don't get the feeling that she's ever been to England, you know?
I felt like it was almost Dickensian.
Okay.
But without, I mean, Dickens does have a great sense of place often.
Yeah.
But I think it was just the way that it's sort of like a English country manor that sounds quite gothic, but then the interior feels more like an Edwardian townhouse, like dingy, dark. Do you know what I mean? Something from Dickens. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I the two didn't match up in my mind. Like the outside, the exterior and the interior didn't match up.
Yeah, especially because there's brief talks of like expansive gardens as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
like
and Parisa and
gardens.
Dalton disappear into a cedar grove or something, don't they?
Yeah, but they don't really ever go outside. Yeah, it was just lacking for me. There's so much potential there. Yeah. Like, if you're going to set it in a big English manor house, go hard on that.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much history and like potential for a real evocative situation there. I think
you can definitely make the place a part of the problem as well.
Yeah.
Because they were obviously getting attacked by people who wanted to break in, you know, but so they could have, I feel like the place could have incorporated that a bit better.
Yeah. I also think it could have been like, it could have played into this kind of, this pressure of they've got to make this decision as to who is eliminated. Like, they could have ramped up that sense of like cloying claustrophobia that, you know, they're confined to these 3 rooms basically. There are places they're not allowed to go. There are things that the library just won't give them because they have to kind of reach certain levels of study before the library allows them to basically check out texts and resources.
It's a bit like Scientology.
Yeah.
You reach a certain level, you get a different part
access.
of the...
And there was minor frustration with it, but after like the first kind of month they'd been there, it wasn't really mentioned until the end.
Also, they're not trapped there. Like, they don't leave, but I mean, they can leave. They leave at Christmas and they have contact with the outside world with their phones.
Yeah, but obviously they're not allowed to tell anyone what they're doing there.
But I think if they'd have taken that away completely, it would have added another element, like to be completely cut off and have to make that decision.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just... I think wasted potential is going to be a theme of us talking about this book, unfortunately. Because there's so much... Like, the bare bones are there.
Yeah.
but it just didn't quite kick it up a notch to where it should have been.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I agree.
So we've talked a little bit about what they're studying. So a preoccupation with classical studies. And I don't think you can really call magic a classical study, but also is it the most classical study?
Yeah, I agree. I think though as well in the world that they're in, it with the Alexandrian library, having the access to the knowledge of everything, like it's about as classical as you can get for a study.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But no one seems to actually study.
Apart from Tristan?
Tristan.
Or is it Nico?
No, Tristan studies. Tristan seems to be the only one that studies with any real zeal. Libby is denied the access to the materials she actually wants to study. And we see Callum pull materials about predictions.
Yeah. Raina reads. She reads all the classical stuff that's supposed to have been lost.
Yeah.
But that's not really study. That's just because it's what she's interested in. And, this is the only place she can access these things because the rest of the world doesn't know they exist still. But there is a lot of conversations about, it's essentially like magical physics and time and space and astral planes and really high level brain things like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of talking, a lot of telling, and a lot of kind of extrapolation on these kind of ideas of time and space and how to manipulate it, but then we never really see it in action.
No, not after that first kind of situation with Libby and Nico.
Libby and Nico make a wormhole and use it to get snacks.
Yeah. And that's it.
I just wanted that to be explored further.
Yeah. Because as well in Dark Academia, when these characters have these conversations, there's a gravitas behind it. There's a reason. And even if you don't know the reason, it's pulling at you, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency. Like we need to get to the end goal, like regardless of what that is.
And I also think like those conversations exclude you as well, like as the reader, in that deliberate kind of putting you on the outside of their like academic prestige almost.
Yeah.
It's a deliberate technique to emphasize this atmosphere, this environment. But although there were these conversations where, I mean, I don't know anything about physics other than my GCSE, which is long forgotten, but I also didn't feel alienated by it. I didn't feel that exclusion. I just felt a bit, where's this going? Like, what are they going to do with this?
Yeah, I think it's because you didn't see them like follow through often. Like you did and you didn't. So like Libby and Tristan seemed to try things out. And I quite enjoyed those bits. I liked seeing it in action, and it felt like that element was actually going somewhere. Whereas often they would talk about these things and then there'd be nothing.
Yeah, I think there's a general lack of agency.
Yeah.
With the academics, isn't there?
Yeah.
As well, I think they're trying to disguise what they know and what they do from each other as well, which doesn't help. Another one. Potential not delivered. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So the next topic, which is usually one of my favourites, the murder. There isn't any.
My comment under this is, yes, but also no.
Well, the murder looms. Like it's a looming thing rather than... But we don't see it played out.
Because there isn't one.
I did like... So, okay, we didn't do a spoiler alert, but there will be spoiler alerts. If you haven't read this book, then... And you don't want spoilers, go away, read the book, then come back. But... I did like the twist where it looked like Callum had murdered Tristan. Like, I really liked that scene. Yeah, that was clever. Like it actually got me, but
it did.
I mean, yeah. In the end, no one dies. So Parisa was offed by Callum, but it was in a different like
astral plane.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in Nico's head, wasn't it? In a different. different plane, yeah.
Yeah, and Libby is offed, but not really. It's an illusion. I mean, somebody was offed for them to get the corpse to animate into dead Libby, but
there's nothing on the page. There's nothing in the immediate story.
no.
And especially when, like, the first big reveal is that the catch of the Alexandrian Society is that for 6 to become 5, the 6 have to choose someone to die.
Yeah.
And they have to then kill them.
All the way through, I was in my head like, oh, who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? And for the longest time, I did actually think it was going to be Nico. I thought that would be the most shocking one.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have enjoyed that.
No, me neither.
Nico.
But as a narrative choice, that would have been a great choice.
It would have been, because it would have kind of let up the conversation of what's going to happen to Gideon. How is Libby going to survive without Nico?
Exactly.
You know, there's lots of promise.
And then they could have exactly. And then they could have brought Dalton back in, because obviously Dalton's an animator, and yeah.
But in the end, they made the decision to kill Callum because he is a sadistic,
he's a nasty piece of work. That's
evil,
fine.
horrifying person, and Tristan is tasked with killing Callum, but he can't do it, and Callum then pretends to kill Tristan, and that's another big twist and a cliffhanger. But again,
pretends in quotation mark, because he gets stopped. What does he get stopped by? He hears. Is it?
Oh, it's the wards. It's when Libby goes.
Yeah. And he's like, only joking.
Yeah. Because he's one of those characters you're never quite sure what's going on in there.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to know either. Yes, but no. On murder. I think we have slightly differing opinions on the next one.
Yeah.
When I had a peek at your notes. So, a dark, moody and or haunting vibe. I just said not really, because there weren't vibes for me, because there's no atmosphere, I didn't think, and no sense of place. There's nothing that I latched onto, nothing that I gripped onto. The characters are moody.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that atmosphere at all.
I don't know
throughout the novel.
If I was guided a little bit by the artwork that comes with the hardback.
Oh, maybe.
So for every chapter, at the end of every chapter, there's like I think it's every chapter. Anyway, somewhere in there, there's like artwork of the characters, and that's quite a moody kind of styling, I would say, like dark, moody styling. So I don't know if that kind of fed into the overall vibe whilst I was reading it. But I shouldn't need a picture to give me that vibe, I will admit.
And I read it on ebook, and there was not that in there because it was a NetGalley copy. But I did buy the hardback because for the first 35%, I was convinced I was going to love it and it was going to be a 5-star read. So I ordered myself.
The artwork is stunning, though.
Yeah, it's great.
Utterly
the whole
stunning.
design of that hardback is just
stunning.
Chef's kiss, isn't it? It's so beautiful. Hero worship of a particular figure or author.
No.
Not really.
No, I didn't get any of that.
No, I mean, at first, they're in awe of the society and maybe Atlas, but it's not really a hero worship of anything. And nothing ever comes up. They don't develop as a group enough, I don't think.
Isn't Atlas the god that holds the world on his shoulders?
Holds up the world, yeah.
I see. I think the thing is I wrote about how I'm not really sure what the motivation is for any of the characters to keep going down the path they're on. Like, they don't, whereas like say in The Secret History, they have this like Dionysian kind of way of thinking, like that's what they're heading towards. There is like a figurehead, but I just don't understand their motivation, like any of them really. Whenever the subject is broached, they seem to quickly evade the question.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for me.
I think that also plays into like the discussions of like old money colliding with new and no money, because that's usually a strong motivation in dark academia.
Yeah.
Is either securing that higher position, climbing out of a lower position, or so it's something to do with that. But because like none of these characters are plucked from obscurity, they're all known to the
Yeah.
magical world. They all come from something, even if they've, changed the way they stand. Like most of them are from a rich background, aren't they?
I think so. And I think even if they do come from different financial backgrounds, it's not really applicable when you can convince a whole country to go to war in a heartbeat. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think it's often said, isn't it? Like, well, we could just, if we weren't here, we could just go on and have a career making lots of money. Like, that just seems to be the thing.
And that seems to be like all that we know they're going to get out of this education.
Yeah.
Is they'll be rich after.
Yeah. And then towards the end, we kind of find out that actually it's probably going to destroy them. I don't fully understand either what the whole point of being a member of the society would be, other than you've unlocked this knowledge, but they don't tell you what you can do with it, really.
Yeah, I think that's something we're going to look at a bit later in the criticisms, isn't it, about the world building in general?
Yeah.
So we both find that a bit lackluster. Another thing that was a little bit lackluster was the weather, because there wasn't any.
There was weather once. Once there was weather, and Callum notes that the rain that Parisa creates in the astral plane was a nice touch, as he called it, and he's right. It did fit the situation. It was very emotional. She was kind of bearing all of her truths, whether she wanted to or not, and then she takes a dive off the
side.
And rain definitely went with that, but that was the only time. But it was manipulated, though. It wasn't like a.
It wasn't moment where outside.
Yeah, it wasn't. The nature wasn't like reflecting like what was going on inside. It was just Parisa went, "We need rain here."
It was constructed, wasn't it,
Yeah.
for that scene almost.
Yeah.
Artificial. Yeah. I think again because they just don't really go anywhere.
No.
Everything pretty much takes place inside. Or in their heads. We're in their heads quite a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so our last tenet of Dark Academia is underdeveloped social skills, or the protagonist portrayed as an outsider. They're all outsiders, but they're also not, because they come from positions of privilege and wealth, and they're not going to be lost without the society. They are perfectly able to live successfully without it.
Yeah. They don't kind of find a family in each other, do they? They don't find that kind of common ground even.
No.
I think Libby is forced to be an outsider. I don't know though, because she still has Nico like throughout.
Yeah.
She's never. I mean, who is it that says? Is it Parisa or is it Callum who notes that she's alone and feels alone, or Libby?
I think it's Callum.
But no one really has any outside influence either. So apart from Nico has his like mates back at his flat, but Libby ditches Ezra, Tristan breaks it off with Eden. Everyone else who has ties to the outside world have just easily just cut them off.
Cut them, yeah. They've chosen to be outsiders.
Yeah.
In exchange for whatever this nebulous thing is that they're going to get from being in the Alexandrian society.
Yeah.
It's not an intrinsic part of their personality that they are excluded or a bit weird or,
Yeah. It's not like if there were other kind of students studying other parts of magics or whatever at the society, kind of looking at the chosen six going, I wish it was me.
Yeah.
There isn't that kind of thing to play off.
Yeah, I think that's the difference of them being they are the only characters, aren't they? They aren't like background. There's no background noise.
No.
to anything.
They don't even really have lessons.
No, they have like lectures, don't they? If you can call them lectures. I think we're going to move on to the criticisms and a look at isolated elements in the Atlas 6 now. And as we were saying before, we do think that there's, you know, a real lack of depth to the world building here. There's a great setup for this society, this isolated manor house, these 6 incredibly powerful Medeans or magicians, whatever you want to call them. But we don't know how this world works. We don't know how the society and magic and magical people fit in with the mortal world. We don't know what the society does, what it doesn't do. Does it pose a threat? Is it a force for good? And what does being a part of the society mean for the characters in terms of the lives they're going to lead afterwards, other than just making them rich?
Yeah.
There's no background, there's no follow through, there's no anchoring of these characters' current situation in a larger world. Because we don't know anything about it.
Yeah. It's all just kind of floating there, isn't it?
Yeah. Which for a book that the paperback edition, because it was taking us a really long time to read. We were like, this book's only 385 pages.
No.
And yet you look at the paperback edition that's coming out in September and it's 540 pages and you're like, there we go.
Yeah, the pages are dense as well. It's not there's not much there's not much dialogue break. And I'm sure I've seen a couple of reviews where people have talked about how the dialogue is the thing that moves it along, but
there's no dialogue.
There isn't enough dialogue to do that. We're in their heads a lot, and there's big chunks of just kind of like theorizing about Gumph. Yeah, there's that too. I think for me, the prose itself. See, I'm all about. Don't get me wrong, all about a self-indulgent kind of luxurious, flamboyant. Even just I don't mind if it's a little bit lyrical, a little bit like poetry-esque, but it also needs to give me more in other places. I think that's what this is. It's just it needed an edit, and I think this is where maybe the issue is that for a indie book, for an independently published book, it's fantastic.
Yeah, undoubted. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. But then when you come across to traditional publication, I kind of expect a bit more.
Yeah, so it was originally published in 2020 independently, and then at the end of last year in the US and the beginning of this year in the UK, it was published by Tor and Pam Macmillan, respectively. And yeah, it needed a brutal edit, didn't it?
Yeah.
In the pacing, the repetition, but not deliberate repetition. It was like repetition that you have to slog through.
And I'm saying it with peace and love because I really wanted to love this book. Even where the bits where I was really struggling, I'm like, I really want to love you. But it makes it so hard.
I loved it for probably the first 30% or so, and then it started to lose me a bit.
Yeah.
Because none of the characters have any agency. Because there's too much Gumph in their heads. There's too much filler, I think. They don't really do anything.
Yeah, and I liked how... I mean, I'm not usually a fan of multiple POVs, but I did quite like being able to dip inside everybody's like train of thought, but I don't think we needed everybody's.
No, see, I quite like multiple POV, and it's difficult to do a multiple POV where you're not in a POV waiting for another one. Yeah, and I never found myself doing that. I was equally interested in each of the characters. And I wanted to know more about them.
Yeah, and each one definitely had a unique voice.
Oh,
it's not
absolutely.
Like they didn't blur. But I just don't, with that many POVs, it doesn't give you much chance to explore that character much deeper.
Yeah. It's restrictive in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I honestly think close third probably would have been better.
I think you also could have done it from Libby's perspective entirely.
Yeah.
Because she feels like the main character.
She does, yeah.
Everything revolves around Libby, whether they are thinking good things or bad things about her.
Yeah. Or even, I think it would have been really interesting to have someone tell their story.
Callum.
Like a really, yeah.
You know, in the traditional,
even,
in a traditional Dark Academia way. So, all right, I'm just going to be like dreamscaping my own version of this book. It looks like they've offed Libby. So let's just keep it true to the plot. Like, obviously she's offed, but she's not. It looks like they've offed Libby, and we see it from Callum's point of view, but then back. Do you know what I mean? So we see that point with Libby, and then we go back, and then we see it from Callum's point of view. That's how I would have done it.
Yeah. I think it would have been interesting to see it perhaps from like maybe Atlas telling it, but in that kind of distanced, I'm a mysterious narrator that knows everything and all the inner
Dalton,
workings. Yeah.
Because he was with them more, but then Atlas has the key to their minds, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he is clever enough that he can pull stuff back and drip feed and mislead you. It could be a really strong, unreliable narration that way. I think that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not mad about the POVs. They worked.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. I just wanted more.
I think the only thing that I struggle with is at the beginning that we find the Atlas going to meet with each of them and essentially the same thing in a different environment being done 6 times.
Yeah. Do you want to join my club? No, thank you. I think you should join my club. All right.
Yeah. That was quite tiresome.
Yeah.
Because it was a chunk of the book as well.
It needed some work.
It did. And I think Olivie Blake was done a disservice by her publishers.
I think so too, because like I said, I really, really want to love it and I can see it. I just don't see it on the page.
There's so much potential. There's so much scope. It's a really clever premise and lots of elements of it are really strong and really gripping.
I would be interested to see if the second book has a tighter edit.
My worry is now that she's done the viral thing on TikTok, self-published, she could then push back and say, well, I did fine without you.
Yeah.
Because obviously authors don't have to accept their edit suggestions, do they?
No, but Olivie, if you're listening to this, please do. Give it a go. Just try it.
Yeah,
you don't know until you try.
Keep the other version and you can just compare and contrast.
Yeah, just try it. Try something new. Just try it. Try and edit with an editor. That sounds really harsh. I'm not being harsh. I'm just like, just listen
It's coming
to what they have to say and give it a go. And then if you really don't like it, just go back to the other one. It's fine.
Yeah, it's coming from a place of love, okay?
Yeah.
Just please listen to your editor.
Don't put us through 540 pages again. It's a book that never ended.
I think my Kindle, when I started it, told me it would take me 7 hours. And at that point, I was like, there is no way this book is 380 pages.
I was reading Red, White and Royal Blue at the weekend going, I'll still have like 3 days to read the Atlas 6 before we record. It's fine. I was like, this is not fine.
There was panic. It also concerns me because the hardbacks are very tall.
They are tall, aren't they?
Okay, well, the hardback is going to be... Oh, the Kindle edition is 416 for the sequel.
Oh, that's big, isn't it?
Yeah, if it's that size hardback, yeah. Because the hardback is listed as 385 for this. Ugh. That's a lot of pages, man.
Yes. You didn't listen, did you, Olivie? You didn't listen.
Oh, God.
Knowledge is carnage, yes. And so is the edit for this book.
But again, it's so pretty.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
White with gold and black.
Oh, yeah. Stunning. Stunning job. I mean, I was a little bit resistant to it at first because I really dig the indie cover. I think that's cool.
Oh, I do prefer the traditionally published ones.
But now I've had it in my hands and I've looked at it and stuff. I like it a lot.
It's very pretty. People are selling the self-pubbed one on eBay for hundreds of quid.
I know. Because originally I was going to buy one because I was gutted that they took them off. And when I was looking at buying one, they were like, oh, 15 quid. I was like, £15. But now they are like
Several hundred. Yeah. Which is insane. Resellers, man. Not my favourite.
No.
My last note for criticisms. The ending was shit.
I don't really understand the ending, to be honest. That I don't know if I was just bleary-eyed by that point, but I didn't fully grasp it.
I was skim reading it, I'm not going to lie. But because it's just telling, not showing. It's really info dumpy. And it felt rushed as well, because it wasn't this grand reveal that I was shocked by. It was a reveal that felt a little bit lazy and kind of pissed me off, actually.
I also just don't like Ezra as a character.
No. Which I guess, considering he's the villain, kind of. Him and Atlas are him and Atlas.
Are they the villains, or is Ezra sort of trying to stop Atlas from being a villain? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. Is he just going along with it?
I don't know.
I don't know, really. Because that's the thing. It was a weak ending. For me.
I just find it also a little bit gross that Ezra finding out who he is, and he willfully enters a relationship with Libby is a little bit gross.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, you're probably at this point, if you're listening, you've read it. But in case you haven't and you are still here, hello. So we find out that Ezra, Libby's ex-boyfriend, actually was part of Atlas's class at the society 20 years prior, and he can create doors into other realms and times. So he has basically skipped through time for 20 years, not aged, and remained at 21, and then gone to the university to scope out people for Atlas for this new class of initiates. And he kind of passes on to Atlas that Libby and Nico are the ones, and he stays close to Libby and Nico by getting into a relationship with Libby. And Libby is, I don't know how old they are.
Well,
we never find out how old they are. But
they must be 21.
21 and 22.
Yeah. Although I feel like Libby definitely, but Libby and Nico they read younger.
Yeah, I would have said they were 17, 18.
Yeah.
That's how they read to me. But no one else we don't really know.
No, that sort of, it is a little bit vague, isn't it? I feel like, isn't Callum supposed to be, he feels like he's 20s, almost like late 20s. Almost.
Do you think?
Yeah, and Parisa, because I think just because of what they say about their lives. Tristan, yeah. I'm not so sure.
I'd probably say mid-20s, 24-ish.
Yeah.
But again, we don't really know much about them. Even spending all this time with them, they're not hugely well developed in terms of character arc, and what we know about them is usually told to us by someone else.
Yeah.
It's not what we've learned from being in their heads or from conversations. I guess that takes us nicely onto our character analysis, doesn't it? Or actually, no, we were going to talk about women.
We were. There aren't many women.
There aren't, and they're all portrayed kind of abysmally, actually.
Yeah.
Coming from...
I think Raina is the only one with potential to be a kind of positive portrayal, I think. But she just was so sidelined.
Yeah, because like she's kind of portrayed as apathetic, isn't she? She's not worth bothering with because she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't want to do anything, so just leave her in the corner to read her books.
She is also Mother Earth.
Yeah,
that kind
I
of
guess.
nurturing stereotype. But then she does push her back against it. So that her character is quite interesting in that way. Parisa, I did not enjoy her at all.
No.
Really.
But she's, again, portrayed really unflatteringly.
Yeah.
She's...
I think at first you're supposed to not like her, that's the point.
Yeah.
But then I feel like she's supposed to have like a kind of redeeming arc. But for me, it falls flat.
Like the classic... What's it called? So, Parisa is extraordinarily beautiful, and what comes with that is her being manipulative and sexually promiscuous and having no morals and no friends, and she doesn't want to engage with anyone. She only will use men for what good they are to her, and that's basically all there is to her. We don't really get an arc. We don't get to know her that well.
Yeah.
Again. And she's kind of sidelined as that is her personality.
Yeah.
And in the same way, Libby... So everyone acknowledges that Libby is extraordinarily powerful. But it's also said that she's not strong enough for it. So she ignores it. And so she'll never live up to her potential.
Mm.
And they all... Like, so many of them say, well, that's why she should die. Because, you know...
Yeah, I think she's portrayed very innocent, isn't she? She's deer in the headlights the whole way through, and she's almost punished for asking questions.
Yeah,
I mean, not almost. She is punished for asking questions.
She is, absolutely, yeah.
When
Definitely.
really, like, why is no one else asking these questions? All
She's
right,
the
so
most sane one out of the lot, really.
Exactly. Like, fair enough. She probably should have come to the conclusion after that long conversation about the trolley theory with Tristan about if there's, what is it, like a running train, you can save one or save five or whatever.
Yeah.
She still doesn't get it that somebody has to die out of the six of them. But even though she's just not given a chance to prove herself ever.
No.
She's just a I don't know what the right word is. She's almost
dismissed.
like a prop.
Yeah. Things happen to her. She doesn't have any real agency of her own. She's not given space to have agency.
Yeah.
She is dismissed and put upon and taken advantage of a lot, because every time she gets involved with something amazing happens. Like when she works with Nico, when she works with Tristan about what he can do.
Yeah.
Like she gives these men breakthroughs on their own power and abilities, and that's almost
dismissed.
her purpose, and then she's gone.
Yeah.
Even though it's her power and her mind that's kind of led them to this position.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that made me really mad.
She's almost portrayed like the classic hysterical woman.
Yeah.
Because she's always told to like dial down her anxiety, like just calm down. Like
even from people listening in her head.
Exactly.
Like...
It's like in that situation, I don't know if I would be able to keep calm. You know?
Definitely not. Yet she does have people that have her back.
Yeah.
Not completely, maybe, because obviously her and Nico are supposed to be enemies, but they're also linked together in they're very codependent.
They're enemies in that kind of in that way that they're also like platonic soulmates. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's that classic academic rivalry. Which is, yeah. Don't know where I was going, but yeah.
They complement each other, don't they?
Yeah.
The other lacks. No, the other provides what they lack, kind of thing. But just in comparison to how the three guys are presented, Callum is deadly and cruel and ruthless, and you don't really want to get on the bad side of him. Tristan is really powerful, but he also doesn't really understand his power or know what he can do, and yet everyone loves him regardless. They don't even consider killing him off.
No.
And Nico is doing extraordinary things. Like, he made a wormhole.
He did make a wormhole.
With Libby's help. To get snacks. But he did make a wormhole. And he's doing it out of love for his roommate, who he's trying to save. So, I think, even just putting it that simply, you can see the divide in the presentation of the three women and the three men. And never fails to disappoint me when that comes from a female author.
I know, and it's also, even though there is obviously a fair split between the students, there's three females, 3 males. I don't think there's any other female influence, really, is there? Because there's Atlas and there's Dalton.
Yeah, no.
It's very male dominated, which is a reflection of those elitist.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of societies, but
that's where fiction has the power to turn that upside down.
Especially when it's fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, if it was trying to reflect a contemporary setting, then fair enough. But when it's fantasy, you can do anything.
The Japanese politician that speaks to Reina.
Oh, yeah. There's also Eden.
Yeah. But
Tristan's
then again, they're
fiancé.
presented really badly. Eden is...
An adulteress.
Yeah, and vain and always on her phone, always on social media and posting selfies.
But they have Herculean sex, he'll have you know.
Exactly.
God.
And I can't remember the name of the politician. And she's really powerful and super clever, but she's shady because she has connections to the society. And when she wins something, doesn't she, in Japan? So everyone's immediately suspicious of what she's done to get that position. It's just never fails to fuck me off. The way that women are consistently treated in fiction.
I just wanted Libby to a chance for Libby to truly step into her power, and I kind of hope that we see that in book 2.
I really hope so.
Because, I mean, right now Libby is just waiting to be saved, isn't she? At the minute, that's where we've left her.
Yeah, she's just been dumped on another plane, hasn't she?
Yeah.
And not a flying plane.
An astral plane.
An astral plane that she can't escape from. That we know. Because where Ezra's imprisoned her, he's used kind of the antithesis of her powers to make sure that her powers are extinguished. Kind of thing.
I'd like to see Gideon more in book 2. I really like Gideon.
I like Gideon. I really like the dynamic between the three guys.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I could read a whole book about Nico, Gideon and Max.
Oh, easily. So I guess the big question, is it Dark Academia?
No.
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 It's fantasy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say it's academic fantasy. I'd just say it's straight fantasy.
Yeah, I think I can see why people attach the Dark Academia label to it, because but it's almost striking from a long tradition of fantasy having similar elements.
Yeah.
Like this kind of fantasy, there's quite a few you could put in there, and I think we probably will go on to explore some of those titles as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I know this is something that we kind of concluded by the end of season 1. The Dark Academia is a vibe. It's an atmosphere.
You just know.
You just know, and the Atlas 6 doesn't have that atmosphere. It doesn't have that vibe, and
she just ain't got it, kid.
Exactly. She is not Dark Academia.
And that's showbiz.
Our next episode will focus on Meg Wollitzer's debut novel Sleepwalking, which was actually written by Wolitzer when she was 23 and still a student at Brown University. So I have hopes for the vibes for this one. So this is the synopsis. Sleepwalking tells the story of the 3 notorious death girls, so called on the Swarthmore campus because they dress in black and are each absorbed in the work and suicide of a different poet. Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, and Wolitzer's creation Lucy Asher, a gifted writer who drowned herself at 24. At night, the death girls gather in a candlelit room to read their heroines' work aloud. But an affair with Julian, an upperclassman, pushes sensitive, struggling Claire Danziger, she of the Lucy Asher obsession, to consider to what degree her death girl identity is really who she is. As she grapples with her feelings for Julian, her own understanding of herself and her past begins to shift uncomfortably and even disturbingly. Finally, Claire takes drastic measures to confront the facts about herself that she has been avoiding for years. I am excited.
Me too.
Because we both love Meg Wollitzer's Belzar.
Oh, love, love, love.
It's an extraordinary book. And I've not read anything else by her.
No, me neither.
So I'm very excited for this one.
Thank you for joining us for this episode on the Atlas 6, and we hope that you listen in next time. Bye!
Bye!